So where I left off, the Anglican Studies program had moved to the Islip School of Theology in 1996, and Wallace Clift continued to direct that program until his retirement from the University of Denver at the end of the academic year in 2001. I had already begun to teach in the Anglican Studies program a couple of years beforehand, teaching the course that had previously been taught by Professor Burton on the English Reformation. And so in 2002, Jerry Winterrode, then the Bishop of Colorado, invited me to become the director of the Anglican Studies program. And that invitation then was re-extended in 2004 when Bishop Rob O'Neill was consecrated here in Colorado. So I have served as director of the Anglican Studies program for 12 years, and the Anglican Studies program now is 23 years old. So we are not a new Anglican Studies program in a non-Episcopal seminary. We've been around for quite some time and look forward to a wonderful 25th anniversary celebration in a couple of years. The Anglican Studies program has always been staffed by a faculty that has been drawn from the University of Denver, from the University of Colorado Boulder, from Colorado College, from the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs, but also from highly trained clergy of the diocese, many of whom have earned doctorates and who have experience of teaching in the Anglican Studies program, or who have extensive experience working on the Commission on Ministry or the Board of Examining Chaplains. I've been very proud of the clergy that we've been able to have in the Anglican Studies program, not only at St. Thomas Seminary, but also in the Islip School of Theology. As you might imagine, at the very first, it was difficult to convince clergy that the Anglican Studies program, either at St. Thomas or at the Islip School of Theology, could be any sort of substitute or equivalent to a traditional seminary education taken on at a residential seminary in one of the 11 Episcopal seminaries in the United States. It was simply assumed that Anglican Studies students would be trained in the way that all of the priests in the diocese had been trained at traditional Anglican seminaries, Episcopal seminaries that were residential. But of course, though, being trained at one of those residential seminaries meant that you had to be uprooted and moved to Virginia or Austin, Texas, or to Wisconsin, or to Southern California, to Berkeley, to New Haven, Connecticut, or to Ohio. And as the economy changed in the 1990s and the early 2000s, that became increasingly difficult, not only because of the economic burden that theological education began to pose on people, but also the fact that the age of clergy was changing, and many people who were entering into ordained ministry were doing so as a second or third career, and it was increasingly difficult for them to uproot themselves and go to a different part of the country. So the Anglican Studies program at Islip became more and more attractive because of its proximity for people training for higher education in the Diocese of Colorado and in contiguous dioceses. But other things played into the attractiveness of our Anglican Studies program at Islip, and that is the fact that the Islip School of Theology has a seminary faculty second to none. And so you're not simply drawing upon the resources of the Anglican Studies program, but of a talented and internationally recognized faculty at the Iliff School of Theology. That made our program attractive as well. Moreover, the Iliff School of Theology houses the largest theological library west of Chicago, north of Dallas, and east of California. It is simply one of the finest theological libraries in the country. And when you have that library sitting next door to a research library at the University of Denver, you really have a powerhouse of a place to do study. And the fourth factor that made study at the Iliff School of Theology in the Anglican Studies program particularly attractive is the fact that Iliff is an ecumenical seminary. Even though it has its roots in the United Methodist tradition, only 45% of the student body at Iliff is United Methodist, and 55% represent a spectrum of denominational affiliation. And the Anglican Studies students represent somewhere between 10 to 12, sometimes 14% of the student body. 10% of the student body are Roman Catholics, probably 10% Unitarians, 8% Roman Catholics, a good number of Lutheran students at the Iliff School of Theology, as well as Baptists and many others, so that the Iliff School of Theology provides a wonderfully rich dialogue made possible by this ecumenical environment that is the Iliff School of Theology. And it also becomes a very important part of the kind of training we do in the Anglican Studies program, when we recognize that most of the people in the Episcopal Church these days are not cradle Episcopalians. Probably only 15 to 20% of the people in the Episcopal Church these days are cradle Episcopalians. Most of them have come from those other denominations. And so if you are training Anglican Studies students in an ecumenical seminary with classmates who are drawn from a host of Christian denominations, Protestant as well as Roman Catholic, as well as non-Christian backgrounds, you have something that's more reflective of what is in fact becoming a feeder to the Episcopal Church in the 21st century. You've read in Ferguson's essay pages 75 to 78 that seminaries are moving toward a greater degree of flexibility in degree programs, particularly with online and hybrid options, and certainly that is the way we have been moving in the Anglican Studies program. Over the past 3 years, I've been moving our entire curriculum to online offerings, and they have been very well received not only by our students in the Anglican Studies program. They have allowed us to grow the Anglican Studies program and draw in other dioceses into our purview, but also the online course offerings have been really very readily accepted by our faculty members in the Anglican Studies program. So you can begin to see as you read the pages of Ferguson that our program has evolved in just the sorts of ways that he says are going to be necessary for us to face the 21st century and to provide the sort of theological education that is going to be accessible and flexible and necessary for what lies ahead.